I hear you.
Great. Thank you, Zoom. That was a new voice. Hi, everybody. Yes, it's me. And you're listening to the Startup Stories podcast. So let's just do the intro. Zoom just talked in a different voice, and Tammy and I were like, oh, okay. So, welcome, 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 my powerful everyday women of the world. This is the Startup Stories podcast. Yes, you're in the right place with the right women. This is where the ambitious everyday woman is heard, held, and served in life and business. And Tammy and I were just preparing for the conversation today, and you're just going to get so normalized in what you're going through, my friend. So I'm your host, Mia Frankel of Powerful Inc. I'm the everyday women's coach for living a peaceful and productive life. And today, joining me is the fantastic, the glorious, the beautifully forever purple haired, divine friend of mine, the one and only Miss Tammi Lipp, Mrs. Tammi Lipp, very proudly married to Matthew for many years. But what can I say about Tammi is endless because, first of all, I have been waiting to have her on the show for years, you guys, and it's happening today at last. And there's a piece of that of like wanting something to happen. And this is kind of what we were talking about, Tammi, wanting something to happen, but then being wise and patient while waiting for it to happen. And so I let go of any angst or concern that I would have had about when is Tammi going to come on the show? When is Tammi going to come on the show? And I just let it be. And now I'm on holidays at my in laws, hence the very different background. And here we are recording. I even bought a webcam because they don't have a webcam on their computer. So I had to buy this device to come just to record this. And this is
Oh,
the divinity and the beauty of how life works. And this is really the magic and sparkle in Tammy's life because this woman was living basically on autopilot, right? Going through the motions and doing the things and being the good, studious performer of roles, but not fully listening, allowing her essence to come out in the world. And this is why I highlighted her purple hair, because it's an expression of self that's also become branded and gorgeous, etc. But it's been a shredding of who she was trying to be and coming into who she actually is. So way back, she was working in real estate office and hated it, but thought this was the good, dutiful role to play, and then fell into a really awesome life coach, which is where we met. And this started to strip away the things that were clouding Tammi from being Tammi. And now she's living in her big, fully expressed and ever evolving sense of identity as she helps her husband run his airbrushing business, Fester's Airbrushing, shout out, down in Florida, y'all. Very gorgeous art work produced for all kinds of different things. And then Tammi started growing Sacred Philosophies, and this is an intuitive and mediumship type of business. And in that, and you might think it's weird, me, I thought you were a Christian. What are you doing? But this is the beauty of the harmony of the world, is how we can coexist in safety with each other and express. Tammy's allowed to go and live her life the way that she wants to. And this is what she's doing. And she's finding that it's feeding her and bringing more and more her out. And in that too is sort of the cautionary of you will continue to be confronted by yourself in the journey. So that's really where Tammi and I are going to take you today, is through her story and then showing you that we don't arrive at some utopian destination. We're actually choosing and making decisions around what kind of woman we're going to be in any given moment in between, yep, the laundry, the lunches, the social events, friend drama, having some, experiences in my life right now. What kind of woman are you going to be through that? That's how we shape our identity, not by any incredible, sensational results that we get, like a big house or a 10,000 person retreat or, sold out for 5 years. No, it's what's your character, what's your integrity, what's your true spirit as you go about your day. So, Tammi, welcome, 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 baby.
Hello. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited to be here with you. And I'm giggling to myself because you're like, oh, I'm so excited for this interview finally. And I was over here like, when is Mia going to ask me to be on her podcast? Like, she's got all these guests. Like, hello, does she have time to fit little old me in her calendar? So it's just so funny how like our brains work, right? Like, you're like, oh, I would love to have Sammy on the podcast and I would love to be on Mia's podcast, right? But here we are. Here we are.
Like, I thought I was chasing you, and then I was like, fuck, she'll come when she'll come.
No, no, no. It's all about timing, right? And I trust the
Yeah.
timing. And I laugh because I trust that right now is the perfect time for us to be having this conversation. And it's because I'm the woman who I'm, ready to be, and you're the woman who you're ready to be. And even though we've known each other for years already and we've hung out with each other, multiple times, we're ready for this conversation and I'm just so excited. And I laugh, like I said, because it's, we all have our own version of perspective of reality. And for your listeners listening and for my own self to remember, our perspective is not anyone else's perspective. And when we are out there thinking that we know what other people are thinking and feeling about things, sometimes we do and sometimes we don't, right? Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. And it's just so interesting. And it does lend into the realm that I play in, right? The difference between our intuition and our subconscious and our wounds and our fears and sifting through all of the various streams of information in our brain at any given time, right? Where did this come from? Where did that come from? Is this valuable? Is this valuable, right? Because some things that we have in our brain are so valuable, they're like gold, and other things in our brain are literal garbage and just need to be put out with the trash.
Mhm.
And how do we know, right? What is garbage and what is gold, right? And I think we're going to talk about this a lot. We have one very reliable barometer, and that is our body. Our body cannot lie to us. And so when you're trying to decide, right, is this thought garbage or gold, run it through your body, right? How does it feel in your body? And just remembering that discomfort does not always equal garbage, right? Discomfort
Yes.
sometimes just equals unfamiliarity. Because if you're the kind of woman who's not used to receiving compliments, someone could say to you, oh, Tam, your hair looks amazing today. And that could feel really uncomfortable in your body,
Mhm.
and then you might think, oh, what's wrong with me? And it's not about that it's not good for you, it's just unfamiliar for you. So there's that work to do. And I love doing this work. I could say probably obsessed with personal development, spiritual development, um, people on a path not to be the best or better than anybody else, but to be a better version of themselves today than they were yesterday, right? And that's simply to me what personal development means. It's not about achieving a seven-figure business or a certain metric. It's really, can Tammy show up being a little more vulnerable, a little more honest, a little more authentic, a little more raw? Um, in this moment than she was yesterday? Can she show up with more compassion than she did yesterday, right? Sometimes I can be, very Virgo and judgy and practical and wanting to get it done. And sometimes compassion, I have to remind myself, like, oh, wait, who do I want to be in this moment? And you said something earlier. It's like, it's not in the external metrics that we achieve. It's in how do we show up every day? Like who are we every day? And every day I ask myself, am I coming from a place of love and light? Am I coming from a place of compassion? Am I enhancing the experience not only of myself, but the people around me? Right? Or am I not showing up that way? Am I showing up in a different way? And what am I contributing? Not only to my own microcosm of energy, but to the world at large, right? Because
Mhm.
it matters how we show up. And just that alone has been monumentally life-changing for me. And it's not about a seven-figure year or a certain amount of debt paid off. To me, I wake up in the morning and I get to decide if I'm meditating, if I'm walking, if I'm journaling. I get to have the freedom to make those choices, to have a slow morning or not. To me, that's abundance. right? Abundance is the ability to choose what I'm doing with my day. The abundance to me is the ability to say, I like this client, I don't mesh with this client, yes to this client, no to that client, in both businesses, right? That's abundance to me. So it's really partly also shifting abundance. Abundance is not necessarily a metric in the bank or a metric in your investment portfolio. It's how are you moving through the day and how much freedom do you have during the day
Yeah.
to make those moves, right? To say, oh, my son is having a relay race at school today, and I can just literally stop what I'm doing and go for an hour and watch and come back. That is abundance. Right. And I think if women start looking at these little tiny things that we do build and that do come, quickly when we become entrepreneurs or we start, working for ourselves a little bit, you get a level of abundance that doesn't always equal finances in the beginning, that if you can recognize will eventually equate to more finances because you start to see yourself as abundant and worthy and powerful and successful. And then the money starts to follow that.
And if you're not happy with where you are, then it's unlikely, and there's two sides to that statement. But if you're looking around in a scarcity mindset now, chasing more isn't going to heal that wound and free your spirit. So if you can see the beauty and the riches of the day to day, and what Tammy described is very much the life that I'm living, and probably the life that you, Jane, Mary, and Susan, I like to make up names as listeners, are also living, but maybe just a little too fast because you're living in the future instead of living in the present. And there's a beautiful bridge to make the present part of the future without leaving this moment. And that's the very empowered state. And like what Tammy's saying, there's an example. Let's use this one because it just happened. We were traveling to the in-laws. We left at 5 p.m. It's a 9-hour drive, so we weren't going to drive through the night. I booked a hotel on booking.com, but the pet option didn't really click on. And I arrive at the hotel, and the on-site manager is there. So this woman lives in this like highway side town, and I booked through a third party, and we're chatting. And yeah, I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm trying to manage for my family. I don't want to drive to another hotel, but the pet option got missed, right? And so I'm going through all of what Tammy's talking about, recalibrating what woman am I going to be in this? Am I going to freak out and yell at her? Am I going to cry and throw in the towel? Or am I going to continue to breathe deep into my soul inside my body and see what we can make happen and be very kind with her and with myself and all the stress that I could explode into. And then, lo and behold, she goes, well, I do have this one pet room, but we don't rent it out because people have a hard time with the door. And I could have hugged her, like I could have just, I was like,
Like, give
bless,
me all the doors, I don't care.
right? Like, and it was not a big deal because I was so spacious and juicy in my body.
Yeah. Your
And I,
openness provided the ability for
yes,
her to have
and
an
like I
openness
expressed
to
frustration,
completely
but
shift
not
that
at
whole thing.
her. Like I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, what did this other guy with the job, what did he do? Well, he probably went to a hotel down the road. Okay, well, do you have any suggestions? And just staying in that moment with myself, she came to me. She came up with that spring, right? And then
Yeah.
talk about abundance. The pillows were like the best pillows in the world. I would have stolen them. The bed, the pull-out couch. The pull-out couch was the most comfortable pull-out couch on the face of the planet. It had to have been in this like
Ah,
nothing roadside hotel. Like it is not, no offense to the town, which will remain unnamed, but like it is not a destination,
right. Right, right.
you know?
Yeah.
And we slept
But
peacefully and quietly, and even had a
Yeah.
fridge, road snacks. So this is like a very tangible, boring, mundane application of the work and of choosing to see and try and find what is still possible, even when circumstances seem stacked. And yeah, checking yourself to stay in a grounded place so that there, I have this sort of mini teaching around constriction and expansion and how holding on like prevents you from receiving. So if we are like I got stung by a wasp once, and that's when the practice really started. And instead of constricting and like absorbing all the pain of that wasp sting and say 500 other people's wasp stings, that's a tongue twister. I breathed into it and I breathed through it. And if you try this the next time you stub your toe or something, you'll see the different vibration that comes through of this opening allowance. And this doesn't negate or placate pain, anger, sadness, but it allows you to have a better capacity to hold it and work with it.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And it reminds me of a couple things that I love to call on for myself. I consider myself an omnist, which means I kind of play and love all religions and find value in teaching in all religions, but also find the opposite in all religions and just have a healthy discernment for that kind of a thing. And Buddhism is one of the practices that I just love, being a very mental person myself. I love Buddhism. And in Buddhism, they teach us that um, there is always, right, suffering in life, but that suffering can end. And it's really a shift in perspective and it's an openness to experience the suffering, knowing that everything is
Yeah.
temporary and it will end, and that every single thing that we experience is truly a gift to us. And that can be painful when somebody's going through a tragedy. But I like to ask myself, like in a moment with the hotel, okay, here I am. I'm at this hotel. I have these pets. There's no room. What is this gifting me? Like, what is the opportunity here? And your beautiful story example is to be open and to be curious how God could show up and surprise you and make it even better than what you expected it to be and make it very easy. It just was so easy. That was the other thing is like the universe, God has the ability to make it so easy for us when we open, to your point, and just allow ourselves to go into this moment with openness, curiosity, not resistance, knowing that we're always okay. And there's a line of a Tori Amos song. I'm a huge Tori Amos fan. If you know me, you
Yeah.
know I never shut up about her. But there's a song of hers called Upside Down, and it's an old song of hers, very, very old. And in it, there's a line that she says, I'm okay when everything is not okay. And that line plays on repeat in my head because even when things are scary or sad or heavy, I remind myself, I'm okay, right? If you're here and you're still breathing, you're okay, you're in this moment and you're moving through something that is going to either change you, help you, it's going to put you on the right path. You have to trust that every single thing is from God. There's nothing outside of God, right? Nothing. There's nothing outside of God. Everything is from
Yeah.
God. And so even the hard times in that moment, and it's like, okay, God, I see you. You've got me here at a challenge. I'm going to soften. I'm going to release. I'm going to let you do your magic and I'm going to co-create with you in this moment by softening and surrendering and knowing that I'm okay when everything is not okay. And why is that? Because I trust myself. That's something that I teach my clients and work with my clients. Self-trust is a huge, huge, it's everything. And when you trust yourself, you can literally be in any situation because you know that even though you don't know which way the ball is coming, you trust yourself that you can hit it no matter how it comes at you. And it changes the ability to surrender. It really makes it so much easier. And then saying, like, what is this gift here? What is this gift? It's how you show up, it's how the other person shows up. It could be the experience, the relationship, allowing God to surprise you with comfortable pillows and beautiful road snacks and things that you were like, I didn't even have this on my menu. Like, this is amazing, right? That's how God shows up for us, like bigger and bolder than we ever. And that's just like a tiny little example. If we can learn to surrender to the bigness of life and let God do that on big levels, like, whoa. Right? Whoa. That's when we get all the magic. That's when we get all of the synchronicities. That's when we get all of the opportunities. So it's important to just remember that in each moment, you can choose and
Mhm.
pause and respond. And that was what you gifted yourself was a moment of presence. Because in that moment, you were like, who do I want to be? Do I want to be hormonal Mia? Do I want to be
Yeah,
conscious Mia? Do I want, how do I want to show up? Right. And listen, I'm a highly conscious person, and sometimes I don't always choose highly conscious responses.
totally.
I'm human, it
Yeah.
happens. But every single time is a gift. And when you practice that moment of pause and presence, you get to choose how you show up. So even if your first instinct is to attack or protect yourself, you can then still choose differently and create a different outcome for yourself.
Well, and the other piece of this is that fair enough, I made a mistake with the Booking.com app. I'm pretty sure I put pet on there and I was checking it in the car as we approached the destination and I couldn't find it. And, but even in that, a different result came. And I did say to the woman, okay, that's fine. House my family and I'll sleep in the car with the dog because the the hotel rooms were on floor 3 and the dog would be at ground level and there's just like no way I'm leaving my dog overnight in a town I don't know, right?
Right, right, right.
And so she kind of watched me talk out some problem solving to find a solution, and somewhere in there, and she has a dog, she shifted and proposed something on her own and made such a difference in our little life. We used the hotel room for like 9 hours, but you know, it made such a difference. And it stayed in my heart. Like I'll be telling the story about this for a really long time because there's so many different versions of me that could have come out. And like you say, different versions of us do come out. Try me at bedtime for the fifth night in a row. Like murder.
Yeah. Yeah. Or try me when I
Right?
haven't eaten in a few hours and I'm a little hangry. It's kind of the day before my period. I may not always be so conscious so quickly, right? It happens.
It's
Um,
like that's part of the human experience. That's
yeah.
normal. But what makes us different, yes, listeners, we're different because you're here and you're seeking more. And that makes you more conscious. It makes you more open already to experiencing the world in a more peaceful way. This is the thing, like surrender is challenging. And why? Why are we resisting things so much? If we release, we have so much more freedom to be. And like, I'm even just experimenting different word choices that are a bit more bold than I'm used to, but they're still kind. You know, I judge the growth curve where maybe you were the contained good girl forever and now you're like the loud swearing rebel who's like F everybody. Like that, it's too far on the extreme. There's a happy medium where you can be bold and outspoken. You can, this has been the lesson in my life right now. So, borrowing from my current coach, Ruthie, is raising your standards and watching the world adjust around you. We hear
Mm,
a lot of this when we implement boundaries, but the
mhm,
boundaries need to be with yourself first. You
mhm.
can tell everybody that's been in your life for 20 years to go F themselves, but if you haven't put a boundary with yourself as to why you would do that, and are you willing to face the outfall, and what is it that you really think that will achieve other than like releasing resentment that you participated in creating in those relationship dynamics?
Yeah.
So you raise your standards, you raise them with yourself first, and you start to see how you can show up in them throughout your day to day, right? And so saying something at work, like I very boldly all of a sudden all of a sudden or not, it's been brewing for years. I'm far more vocal in the weeks leading up to spring break about wanting a raise and wanting to get it implemented before we consider hiring other staff to work with me. And
Good for
that
you.
is something I've never done. I work in local government. Like, we don't ask for our own raises. Wait, what? Why not?
Right. Why not?
Why not? Right? So
There's always a
that's,
first time, right? You're going to be the first person to ask, and then you set a precedence, right? And if you don't ask, you certainly don't get, right?
well, and but it's like, yes, and raising the standard with myself then, because
Yes.
I am performing at a certain level, and it is reasonable to seek this, and it serves not just me, it serves in a greater portfolio. And it's an example of leveling up actually in the environment that I'm in. Not quit my
Yes.
job and move to Bali and coach off the beach, but
No.
like,
And it teaches your soul that you think you matter. Because even if they say, if you go into your boss and you're like, here's a well thought out argument that ChatGPT helped me write and it sounds really good and blah, 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 and you deliver this beautiful thing, and then the boss is like, Mia, this is wonderful, but it's just not in the budget or whatever the excuse is,
yeah.
it doesn't mean a thing about you. Your soul now is you are now the kind of id entity that comes in and advocates for her value and for her worthiness because she believes it. And that alone changes what you will get back. Maybe not in that moment, but you'll get a job offer or you'll get a big client or something will happen because you're now telling the universe and showing up as someone who believes you're worthy of that raise, whether they give it to you or not. Right? Whether they give it to you or not. Now, maybe they give you double what you ask for, right? Who knows? I'm not saying they won't, but even if they don't, just the act alone of you going in and advocating, and I hope your listeners are listening to this, just that act alone, the willingness to go in and say, hey, I feel like I'm valuable and this is what I would like for myself. It shifts who you are on a subconscious, subatomic level, which
Mm.
then therefore shifts how you show up in the world and will absolutely shift what you get back. Maybe not in that exact second, because energy takes a little time, right? It's like the water doesn't boil instantly, but it absolutely will shift what happens in your life. That will fling open doors for possibilities and different things. If we don't believe in our value, if we don't have the confidence, if we don't show up that way, nobody in this world is going to reflect that back for us. And I say that as somebody who has cultivated my own confidence on my own value, believing that I matter. I promise you, it shifts everything. It shifts everything how we show up. And when we're afraid to ask for raises or for someone to hold the door for us or to receive things, we are sending these tiny little subconscious messages to the universe. And that is programming reality that you are receiving back.
So one of my clients in my super awesome program, y'all, the Everyday Women Awakening, free plug, why not? This came up where the woman would, like, say you bump into somebody in the grocery store, like by accident, right? Sorry, sorry, or you feel like you're taking up space and you're apologizing for taking up
Mhm.
space. This is you shrinking and thinking that you're bothersome to just be a physical body that, you know, bumps into other places or things like that. And when I gave it back to her as, well, why are you shrinking in these moments? Why are you feeling bad for just being there? You know, if somebody bumps
Mhm.
into you and you say sorry, like, why? And what could we say instead? Excuse me? Are you okay? Pardon? Oh, you know, like this sort of thing. But the oh no, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh, da, da, da. The shrinking away from it is the part where you stay in that lower self concept.
Mhm.
And when I gave that back to her, she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so right. I see. You see, it's a form of shrinking and it seems like nothing." So I encourage you as you go about your day to consider, where might you not be saying the true thing? Because every time that we button something up or keep a lid on it, we stuff it back down and we keep ourselves trapped within ourselves. And what
Yes.
Tammy and I are encouraging and trying to speak life into you is how to open with love for yourself and for others around you, even when they're doing something that you don't like, and to do that nicely, right? Like I have a saying, don't be a doormat, but don't be a dick. Like you have to live in this nice balance of integrity and of,
Mm,
can I live with that version of myself,
mm,
while again raising my standards, because what I'm experiencing is twofold. One, in raising my standards is the way that people are reacting to it. They do not like it. And then I have to sit in that discomfort. And what
hmm.
I've been, hearing this week intuitively is like, am I going crazy? Like, am I being a dick? Am I the one who's wrong? Am I? And I'm starting to absorb. But what's actually happening is
Oh,
I'm showing up and leading more grounded, more true. And the ripple effect is coming out and
it's
back. And
weeding out.
I,
It's weeding out
yeah,
things. Yeah.
right. And I have to keep
I
self
would love
checking
to
that.
just,
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Mia, but I wanted to say something before when you were talking, and I want to say it again. You were saying with boundaries before, and this is something that I have really, right, played with a lot with boundaries. And am I being a dick? How am I showing up, right? Because a lot of times, those of us who are untethering from codependent and enabling type of behaviors, which is definitely something that I work on, and most people that are in my world work on as well. And I've noticed that when we do start to call ourselves up and honor ourselves and allow our authenticity to be misunderstood, if it is misunderstood. Not that we want it to be misunderstood, but it could be misunderstood because we don't control other people's perceptions of us, right? So when you stand up for yourself and you have boundaries or you have discernment and you are doing that and it's making people around us uncomfortable, and I've experienced this myself, not only with my friends but with clients, and I had to realize, well, I have some unhealthy attachments here with some clients. The ability to allow people to be discomforted and misunderstand you and even pull away from you and go away when you know your boundaries are right and rooted in love and compassion for yourself and what's right is such an important skill to build, because it's going to happen that way. As to your beautiful point, boundaries, when they're not punitive, right? Now, my old versions of my old self would install boundaries only in a punitive way. And you see what I'm saying? Like only in, well, you did this to me, so now you're cut off, and here's a boundary and F you. And
And
it's
look at
really to
me, I'm
hurt.
standing up for myself.
Right. And it's to hurt somebody, right? Or to be resentful or whatever. It's not necessarily rooted in healthy boundaries. When we start to have boundaries that are not resentful and punitive that way, when they're truly healthy, when it's like, hey, I can't go on this trip because I have some financial situations, or I can't do this thing, or I'm not doing this anymore because it infringes upon my new values or whatever it is, and people around us are not happy with that or uncomfortable with that. When we can remember that if we're coming from love and we're coming from compassion, if the other person is receiving it in any other way, it's a life lesson for them, and we must detach and let them live their life lesson and have their experience for whatever that looks like. And also remind ourselves that when we get upset when someone maybe enforces a boundary or has a boundary, we're like, oh, like recognizing the two-way door there. And when
Yeah.
you're like asking, you said, am I being a dick? Right. So here, like, I completely understand. Like, am I the asshole? Because I don't, right? My lens of that is, where is my intention, right? Am I coming from a place of wanting to punish them, or am I resentful towards them in some way? Or am I truly coming from a way of self-preservation, self-protection, healthy boundaries for myself in some way? And if I check myself and my root is healthy, then I stay with it and I allow other people to leave my world, unfollow me, leave my membership, whatever they need to do. I love you. It's all in good light. And if you have an epiphany and want to come back and talk about it, amazing, right? And if not, because it's not a boundary rooted in resentment or hurting, it's a boundary rooted in my own preservation and recognizing that I didn't need the boundaries I thought I did in a punitive way, but I needed a lot more boundaries in other ways with myself
Yeah.
for the most part, right? Really became a beautiful practice. And it last year really got good at it. And it stripped away a fair amount of relationships, many networking groups, clients, friends, all bye-bye out the door. And I love them and I send them off with love, but they are no longer aligned with the person who I am becoming. And that's okay. That's okay. When you realize that you're a puzzle piece and you've only got so many sides to plug into the pieces around you, you start not giving a shit that you're not plugged into all of these people that don't align with you anyways. That when I really got honest with myself, these people didn't align with me anyways. I was people pleasing, I was all the things, right? And so it was painful, but then you know what happened after the pain? The peace was ushered right in because now with all of this misalignment gone, all of the more aligned pieces can move into place, and more alignment equals more peace, more synchronicities, more magic, more possibilities, more things, right? So it just became like, wow, how many pieces do I need to be plugged into, right? What are the where am I? Where do I begin and where do I end? And who do I want to butt up next to? And we get to decide those things. And boundaries, when they are from that perspective, instead of, well, this person pissed me off, so she's on now she's boundaried, or like, whoa, when we dial it back from that and we really take a look at our boundaries and what the root is of the boundaries, it will change the response of the boundaries also, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like being willing to experiment with that and find your new way. You're decluttering, you're doing a soul decluttering of all, I like to say, life stickiness that's attached to you. And sister, it will be uncomfortable and you will question yourself. But I'm learning that that actually is a sign of the growth and of
Yes.
the change and of raising a standard and then staying in it, right? Because
Yes.
the analogy is reps at the gym. You know, you've been lifting 5 pounds, they were hard, now they're easy. Now you got to go to 10. And there's going to be a
Yeah.
growth strain in closing that next gap. And this is how Tammy and I really want to be explaining this to you so that because both her and I, we're not like, ah, ta-da, altruistic and now forever living in some utopian bliss full of money and hotness and whatever we want.
That's not real.
We're
I just want
like,
to say, like, that's not even reality. And if when you see people and they're making you believe that that's their life and that's their reality, I invite you to check for us to all check ourselves, right? In that moment, that's not reality for anybody. I don't care if you're Gabby Bernstein. I don't care if you're Marianne
mhm,
Williamson. I don't care if you're Tony
mhm,
Robbins. Everybody gets up and puts their pants on one leg at a time. Everybody poops, right? Everybody has problems. Everybody has situations. It's literally not a thing for somebody to live that life. And I think social media has really warped our sense in some way because it has become a highlight reel and a brag reel, and it's
mhm,
great. And I'm not pooping or shitting on social media by any means, except for the fact that I think that our brains start to make stories like this that then make it impossible to live up to, and it's not even real at all. Like every single person, every single human being has issues, has a shadow side, has challenges.
yeah,
If they're alive in their body, they have them. Period. Period.
yes. And
Unless Jesus is
coaching,
coming back. That's where we're at.
you
That's
did
where
me
we're
now.
at.
The
And
the
could you bring the donuts when you get here? Because it's a little weird.
the idea that coaching or self-transformation ends is as you say, it's not. And this is the thing. So Tammy and I were saying before we hit record too about coaching from the mess. And if you're looking for a coach or you are coaching, invite you to really just be authentic and relatable, because we want examples of other women like us. And we want to know that you poop too, and that we can um, not be in a hierarchy or not be in a unachievable state of pursuit, right? We just want to do the wholesome, boring daily work and grow a little bit better. And when our shitty side comes out, handle ourselves a little bit better. Because that's the other piece, is that we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be fully actualized. We're just
Right.
in a constant state of growth. And that is another piece of the freedom and peace that comes with it, is again, not trying to get to a destination. And in this identity work, I'm noticing with myself, when I boldly Teams messaged my boss about the raise in banter, because I'm very much a clown at work. Like, I just joke all the time. I'm very professional and amazing, and then I'm also just a ridiculous grown up, and it's awesome. But then when I did that, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And then I felt this like childlike sense of giddiness. And it's observing that side of me and going, okay, that's cute. But like, also, you are, a 44-year-old, highly accomplished, strong woman. And it's merging that identity now to not lose fun and playfulness, but to be more fully embodied in my maturity and in my like my
Yeah.
strength or warrior energy, right? Because
Yeah.
we might start doing something, and you don't want to be like, oh, look at me, da-da-da, because that feeds that sort of negative boundary loop, in my experience, where it's
Well,
like, well, hey,
it downplays your
yeah,
value and your worth. And
yeah,
in that
and you
moment,
feel like you're acting
you were
instead of
vulnerable. So I
being.
don't know if you relate to this. I do because I'm very sarcastic. I love to make people laugh. And part of my aspirations is to be a spiritual comedian. But that's another
Yeah.
topic. But I think that sometimes when we're vulnerable, like you were with your boss and you were like, hey, like this raise kind of thing, then we counteract that with sarcasm or deflect that with humor, the vulnerability. And so just recognizing, wow, I was just vulnerable in that moment with my boss. And now my instinct is to be jokey a little bit or to be like, make light of it so that it's not, so heavy. Just noticing, not shaming yourself or judging or even changing anything about it, but just noticing, wow, when I get vulnerable, then I deflect, and my safety, my protective mechanism is to use humor and silliness to, to counteract the vulnerability, which may not give us the desired result that we want. Because if we want it to be taken more seriously or seen as the asset that we are, right, maybe a level of seriousness would be helpful. So it's so interesting to notice how our own protective mechanisms can sometimes give us the opposite of what we want in the way that we show up. And it's very interesting. And I noticed that about myself as well. When I would get super vulnerable or I would say something that I perceived as like taboo, then I would follow it up with something very sarcastic or very deflecty or something to lighten it. And I've played with myself a little bit, if you'll let me use those words, to not do that. Like when I say the thing and then I feel the humor deflection wanting, and I go, oh, hold on, let's let that land. Let's let that
Well,
land
this is
with the energy that I put out there and see what happens and not, you know, water it down with some kind of, deflection. And it's just been an interesting experiment to see how the energy of the initial vulnerability can just do its work without the follow-up cleanup that we do.
Yeah, like, stand in that new identity that you're choosing. Stand
Yeah.
in it and stay in it. And yeah, it's uncomfortable because it's new, but it's sort of like, and I didn't joke with her about it, but it was my self observation of, oh,
Yeah.
I can't believe, because I have a very youthful spirit. Like, we can't decide if I'm like 6 or 12 all the time. We being
Well,
like the immediate
you
family
have a
or
lot
close
of you
friends.
have a lot of air energy in your makeup. You have a beautiful lot of air, and air is light and silly and playful and youthful and comedian and very mental and smart and that's air and that's like your desire to be light and silly and keep and that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, but to your point, may not always be appropriate when asking for a raise or having a serious conversation with our partner or
Or in your
right.
self-concept, right? In your self-concept
Yeah.
where the I guess let me try again. Like the point is asking for that raise was raising my standard and then staying in that identity versus thinking that I was acting and like playing pretend grown up or something like that, right? And it's
Right.
closing that gap and being like, no, that's right. That's why I'm talking about it so much now. Is it's such a small example and it is surprising, but it's awesome that I felt my own self trust to put something like that out there. And as you were saying earlier, the energy that comes through that and then stays in you when you see yourself show up for yourself in new ways, that's where the confidence, that's where the self trust, that's where
Yes.
the identity start to anchor in an inch, a foot further and further, and you stack on that over time.
Yes. Yes. And even as women, there's another layer of this is we're typically not culturally conditioned yet. We're changing this to ask for
Mhm,
what we want
mhm.
and to just advocate for ourselves. We're typically property, right? They're just women were property. We were traded like
Yeah.
property, weren't allowed to have our own credit cards and vote and all those things. It's
Mhm.
only been a few decades, we can remind people that we could have our own mortgages and our own credit cards and that we're not technically property. And even still, we're still fighting that battle on some level, or we'll just say that. So we're learning as women to be able to advocate for ourselves in a way that's not emotional, right? But still honors the emotion, right? Because that's the
Yeah.
thing about women. It's like everything, oh, she's so emotional. She's a bitch. She's so cry. She cries. And that's part of who we are. But when we're communicating, and especially when we're communicating our worth, it's helpful to do it with less emotion so that it can be received better, right? But still to honor and process the emotion. And we're learning as women how to reconcile that emotional gift that we are and also show up in the world as the powerful forces that we want to be. We're learning this thing. No one ever taught us. No one ever taught us how to manage money. No one ever taught us because we weren't allowed to do those things. We forget, women, we expect ourselves to be so good at these things, and we forget it's only been a few years that we've even had the ability and freedoms to be in these positions. Can we
Yeah.
just give ourselves a break?
Right. Yeah. And
Right?
leading the future in the feminine energy looks very different than the constructs of the systems we've been living in. It looks very, very different. And we don't
Yes.
have to figure it all out now. We just have to be willing to work towards a different future by how we show up united, awakened,
Yeah.
kind, and like strong, like yeah, confident, certain. I'm not sure what the right word is, but just um, in a like a holistic leader model, not a ranting and raving or a one end goal only, but women
Yeah.
bring forth the village, and that leadership come over time because all the women that I'm hanging out with these days, these are the conversations we have. And when even you get my follow-up email with the podcast assets and I say something to the effect of here's to a global takeover at any scale, right? Because
Right.
that's what we're doing. We're uniting in spirit, we're uniting in heart to feed these
Yes.
changes and shift, as I said, the broken systems that have been operating. They're not just broken for women, they're broken for men too. It's a
Oh, a
lot
thousand percent.
for them to carry. That's it's not it's not the most
It's
efficient
imbalanced.
or
Yeah.
peaceful way for them to carry forward
It's
either.
imbalanced completely. They're
Yeah.
men are tasked with things that with more things than they need to be doing and things that maybe their energy is not built for, and we're not given the opportunity to show up at all. And it's so unbalanced, and we are rebalancing that. We're rebalancing what all of that looks like. Um, and allowing each other, to have the roles that we do. Men and women are different. We're equal, but we are very different. And to recognize that and to let each person step into their own, what they're good at, their gifts, their ability, whatever that looks like, in an unapologetic way, allows the world to be served in a larger perspective, right? Because then everybody is doing their thing and then everyone's contributing to the whole. And then where are we at? And to your point, women, we're the gatekeepers. We are the ones who set the tone in the house. We are the ones who set the tone in the world. I know men, that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers and maybe people don't agree with me, but it's not true. It's true. Happy wife, happy life. Women birth life, not the other way around. And if I know this might be controversial, but God is entirely more feminine than we are led to believe by the patriarchal religious constructs that we were born into. And if we think that a man birthed this world, a man God birthed this world, I would just ask you, what man births anything
Hmm.
outside of a seahorse? I don't know
Hmm.
one male that births a thing. And even the seahorse, right? He gets that from the woman. He just holds it. Let's just say.
Well, yeah,
Women
unless the
women
idea
birth
of a
the
man
world.
god is just so bastardized to men on Earth, right? That they
And then
can't
it's made men
comprehend.
feel like they're superior and
Yeah,
like they're the ones who get to rule. And that's not the way it was in ancient times. Okay.
that's right.
That's not the way it was. And I know this gets a little crazy, but like even Jesus, where he came from, women had a lot more going on than we're led to believe. And
Mhm.
we women are now stepping into this truth that we matter. And not only do we matter, but our collaboration and cooperation matters because that's where we are and really empowered as women. There's a beautiful analogy of like if you're a cup and this is you and you can hold so much, you can hold 24 ounces, right? When you start to add your friends, now you can add 40 ounces, right? Now, what if you have a bathtub? What if you have right? Like, whoa, now you have like, that's how women, that's how we are. So whether you're in Florida or Canada or in India or Africa, if you can add your beautiful feminine energy to the collective feminine pot, we can really do anything, ladies. Like we can change this whole world. All we need to
Yeah.
do is work together in little pockets and then that momentum will build and build and build. And we will be able to balance what's been very imbalanced for a long time, to your point. Because if we were subjugated, then all of the decisions and the ruling went to people who weren't prepared or ready to do that. And I think the world, we can look, it's a little on fire right now. I think we can see that we've got to get ourselves into this situation. And what do we need now? We need more compassion. We need more love. We need more unity. We need more peace. We need more presence. We need more intelligence. We need more intuition. I just did a post the other day, and this is a hill I will die on. AI is everywhere. It is everywhere. I don't care if you're Gen X, millennial, boomer, whatever, you are using AI. And in this world, right now, everyone is losing their mind about it. And I'm over here going, hey, artificial intelligence is wonderful. But let me tell you what's going to save your ass. And it's not AI, it's intuitive intelligence. And if you don't cultivate that for yourself, you are going to have a very challenging next few decades because the stuff that's coming out, half of it isn't even real. And if we don't have that intuitive intelligence to go, something not real about that, or something important about that, we are going to miss opportunities because intuition doesn't come along and go, hey, get on the bus. No, it goes like this. It's like, and it's like you could almost miss it. And you're like, why, if it's so important, are you not talking louder? But that's the way it goes, right? That's the way it goes. And if we walk around thinking that we're going to get our validation and our stamp of approvals from the external world like they used to, we are wrong about that. We are wrong. So the most important intelligence to cultivate, in my opinion, is intuitive intelligence along with artificial intelligence. Because if we think we're going to navigate that world without it, well, oof. I don't agree. I think intuitive intelligence is the way of the future. And the exciting part for women is that that is like our thing. That's like our superpower. Intuition is highly connected to estrogen, which is like a woman thing, right? Not that men don't have it. Men do, and men are intuitive also, but it's like men are typically muscular and physical, and that's their thing, right? Women, we are intuitive. That's our thing. That's our thing, women's intuition. So I'm here to teach people you're not crazy. You're actually very intuitive, how to understand that energy, how to trust yourself, how to trust that beautiful intelligence that's living inside of you, and then live in that rhythm in your own natural cycle and with the cycles around us. And yep, we might talk about the moon, we might talk about your nervous system, but we're probably going to talk about your spirit guides, your higher self, God, all of that, because that's real. And that's what I'm here to tell people is that for so long, I was so skeptical. Right. There was a long time in my life I was even a little atheist and like, oh, this God bullshit is not even real. This can't be real.
Yeah.
But I have come full circle, and not only am I a believer, I am on fire to help other people believe, and not necessarily in the God or the version of God that I believe in, but in whatever it looks like for you, because
Yeah.
everybody's different, and that's okay. I just want people to believe that it's real, the higher power, the intuitive intelligence that tells this world to be what it is, right? What tells the palm tree to be a palm tree versus an oak tree, right? That beautiful divine intelligence, that is God rippling through over and over and over again. And I'm on fire to help people who are super rooted in logic and analytics be believers and open their mind more to the reality that there's so much more. Energy is not just woo-woo BS. It's everything.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, let's leave it there because that was really powerful and a very poignant reflection of really seeing the world from a deeper lens, from your soul lens, and dropping into that space and then bringing it all together to be connected. And yeah, the power of the sisterhood is the future. I can't talk about that enough.
Me neither, girl. Me neither. I love it.
1000%. So Tammi, like, just wow, right? I mean, we covered so much ground. We didn't even really talk about you, but then we talked about who you are, and that was really fun to just dive right into that conversation and get our hands dirty in it
Yeah.
and give some great examples of how this applies in the day to day. Like, this isn't Tammi and I don't just jump on this podcast and go on about this for an hour or whatever. Like, this is how we're living. This is how we're leading ourselves and how we're defining our future from this present moment.
Yeah. And I'll just say it's a choice. And if somebody right now is listening and they're going, oh my gosh, like that sounds so good, but I'm never going to get there, or I'm never going to be able to think that, or, my husband's never going to allow me, or I'm never going to have free time, I would just say this to you. How do you eat an elephant? Right? One bite at a time. You're not going to go from living completely unconscious or somewhat conscious to right the high. Just take one little step. Take one tiny little micro step in that direction. Make one new choice today. One new choice. Just one tiny little new choice. That's all you need to do. And if you just allow that every day, making one tiny little new micro choice each day with consistency over time and having that right aim and that right effort, you will get there. It is impossible for you not to.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. Living it every
Yeah. And
day.
if you can do it, and if I can do it, we're just everyday ladies.
Yeah,
Anybody can do it.
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you, my friend.